On a crisp spring morning in a quiet California town, Sunny Diner on Maple Street was waking up to another busy day. The smell of sizzling bacon drifted through the air while the clinking of coffee cups and the soft chatter of regulars filled the warmly lit room. Lucy, a cheerful young waitress in her yellow and white uniform, moved between the tables with a practiced smile, refilling mugs and jotting down orders. It was the kind of place where everyone knew each other by name, where retired couples talked politics over pancakes and truckers passing through found comfort in a hot meal. As the bell over the door tinkled, a hush seemed to ripple through the front half of the diner. In stepped a tall, weathered-looking black man wrapped in a faded U.S. Army jacket that had clearly seen better days. His hands were rough and cracked, his boots scuffed and worn, and his eyes carried the heavy, distant look of someone who had experienced more than he cared to speak about. Looking around uncertainly, he stood just inside the doorway for a moment as though deciding whether to stay. Several heads turned his way, curiosity and judgment mingling quietly in their eyes. Lucy noticed the hesitation and stepped forward. With gentle kindness. "Good morning, sir. Would you like a seat?" Her voice was soft and inviting, but the man glanced nervously toward the sign that read, "Please wait to be seated," as if wondering whether he truly belonged here. He swallowed hard, his voice low and strained. "Ma'am," he said, "I'm a veteran. Name's Morris Jackson. I'm not here to cause trouble. I just haven't eaten in a while." His words trailed off with fatigue and something like embarrassment. Lucy's heart tightened as she took in the sight of him, proud shoulders slumped beneath a jacket bearing old military patches, suggesting years of service that had somehow led to this moment of quiet desperation. She motioned him toward an empty booth beside the window. "Come on, I'll get you something warm," she said kindly. But before Morris could even take a step, another voice pierced the calm. From behind the counter, the diner's owner, George, a stout middle-aged man with slicked-back hair and a stern expression, raised his voice. "Lucy," he barked with barely concealed irritation, "didn't you see the no loitering sign?" Lucy froze mid-step. George's tone made Morris stop as well, uncertain whether he should stay or turn back out the door. "He's asking for breakfast," Lucy responded carefully, but George shook his head firmly. "We run a business here, not a charity," he said, folding his arms across his chest. "We've had trouble with vagrants lately. If he can't pay, he can't stay." Morris pulled himself to his full height and reached slowly into his pocket, revealing only a few crumpled dollar bills and some coins. His cheeks flushed with humiliation, yet he tried to maintain his dignity. "Anything is fine, ma'am," he whispered to Lucy. "Really, anything." The waitress hesitated, caught between compassion and her boss's hard stare. As the busy diner momentarily fell silent around them, Lucy's hesitation lasted only a moment, but it was long enough for George to grab the phone from behind the counter. "I'm calling the cops," he announced loudly, making sure everyone in the diner heard him. The words seemed to hang in the air, weighted with finality. Morris instinctively stepped back toward the door, his hand slightly raised as if to show he meant no harm. "Sir, please," he tried, his voice cracking around the edges. "I fought for this country. I'm just asking for a meal." But George had already dialed dispatch, reporting a trespasser refusing to leave his establishment. All eyes in the diner shifted between the owner and the exhausted veteran. Some customers murmured uneasily while others avoided looking at Morris at all, as though his presence alone made them uncomfortable. Within minutes, the wail of approaching sirens cut through the morning calm outside, and bright red and blue lights flickered against the diner's window. Two uniformed officers, Officer Daniel Brady, tall and broad-shouldered, and Officer Mike Cusack, smaller but sharp-eyed, pushed through the doors with an air of authority. George greeted them with exaggerated relief. "That's him," he said, pointing at Morris. "He came in off the street and won't leave." Lucy opened her mouth to speak in Morris's defense, but George shot her a warning glare. Brady strode forward, his hand resting near his baton, while Cusack circled slightly to the side, blocking the exit. "Sir," Brady said flatly, "you've been asked to leave private property. Step outside with us now." Morris raised his empty hands, palms outward. "Officers," he said carefully, "I wasn't trying to cause trouble. I just asked if I could get something to eat. That's all. I'll leave." He took a few steps back, but Brady reached out and grabbed his arm with a firm grip. "Let's go," he barked, pulling the older man toward the door. Morris stumbled but tried to steady himself, clearly weak and disoriented. Cusack stepped in and took his other arm, and together the two officers began to force him out. Around them, customers pulled out their phones and began recording. The scraping of chair legs and hushed voices mixed with the sounds of Morris protesting. "Please don't hurt me. I'm just hungry." Outside on the sidewalk, Brady pushed Morris against the brick wall of the diner while Cusack patted him down. "Got any weapons?" Cusack asked gruffly as Morris shook his head repeatedly, fear spreading across his face. Lucy watched from inside, her hands clasped over her mouth. George looked satisfied, wiping his hands on his apron like he'd taken out the trash. Some diners whispered, wondering aloud if things were going too far, but no one intervened. As Morris struggled to keep his footing, Brady tightened his grip and snapped, "Stop resisting." "I'm not resisting," Morris cried, panic clearly taking over. One customer pushed through the crowd and shouted, "Hey, he didn't do anything wrong," but was ignored. Camera phones continued to document the scene as the officers dragged Morris toward their patrol car. Even as the door slammed behind the trembling veteran, his voice could still be heard pleading faintly, "I serve this country. I serve this country." The patrol car pulled away, its lights spinning, leaving behind a rattled diner, full of witnesses who weren't yet aware their morning coffee had just become part of a viral storm that was seconds away from exploding. Online, the video hit social media before Morris had even reached the local station. A young college student who had been eating waffles at a corner table uploaded it to TikTok with the caption, "Black homeless veteran arrested for asking for food. #SunnyDiner #Justice for Morris." Within an hour, the clip had been shared across Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram, racking up thousands of views and furious comments by the minute. Viewers across the country were appalled to watch the grainy footage of an elderly man in a military jacket being dragged out of a restaurant by two uniformed officers while repeating, "I'm just hungry." Hashtags like #serve those who served, #police abuse, and #veteran deserves respect began trending. Influencers, activists, and celebrities with millions of followers reposted the video, calling it heartbreaking, disgusting, and a shameful example of how America treats its forgotten heroes. The story appeared on national news feeds the same afternoon. Across cable networks, anchors replayed the clip while discussing racism, homelessness, and police brutality. Headlines blared, "Diner incident sparks outrage. Black veteran handled." Roughly over a meal request. Back in the small town, the energy shifted rapidly. By evening, protesters started gathering outside Sunny Diner, holding signs that read, "Food, not force," and "Honor our veterans." Candles were placed near the entrance and chants of shame echoed across Maple Street. George, completely blindsided by the backlash, locked the doors and put out a statement claiming he had only been trying to maintain order. No one was buying it. Lucy refused to return to work, shaken by regret and frustration. She spoke to a local reporter about what had really happened, describing Morris as polite and quiet, just hungry and exhausted. Her interview flooded news sites and added fuel to the outrage. The diner's Yelp and Google reviews were bombarded with one-star ratings and angry comments. George's phone rang nonstop with reporters requesting interviews and strangers leaving. Furious voicemails. Meanwhile, the police department found itself under intense scrutiny. The mayor's office was overwhelmed with emails and phone calls demanding the immediate suspension of the officers involved. Under pressure, the police chief held a late-night press conference. He stood in front of flashing cameras and read a carefully worded statement promising a full investigation into the conduct of Officer Brady and Officer Cusack. Reporters hurled questions at him. Was excessive force used? Why was a harmless veteran treated like a criminal? The chief provided no further answers and stepped away from the podium as the crowd shouted after him. Across the nation, veterans groups also spoke out. The National Coalition for Homeless Veterans released their own statement, condemning the treatment of Morris and demanding justice. Donations and offers of help for Morris began pouring in: food, housing, legal assistance, from people as far away as New York and Texas. Late-night talk show hosts even mentioned the incident in their monologues, sparking further public outrage. The small, quiet town suddenly found itself at the center of a growing firestorm of debate about compassion, policing, race, and how America cares for its soldiers after their service ends.